If you are trapped on an island where fertilizer has turned everyone into a flesh-eating zombie, what would you do? I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the plant zombies in Brain Freeze. Everyone on this island is going to die. These people are enjoying a game of golf with no idea that their country club's brand new fertilizer is going to start a zombie outbreak. All the water lines have been contaminated, but as they're dropped off at the clubhouse, they begin to realize something is wrong. A man suddenly runs out of the building, screaming that everyone has been infected before the staff members follow after him and chase the guy down. That's when this woman notices her dog barking and urges it to come, but the animal lunges straight at her, biting into its owner's neck. It's terrifying, and the others quickly abandon the woman as they notice the staff members charging towards them. The golfers take shelter inside of the building, but there's a problem. The bloodthirsty dog has followed them in, and it's just bitten the old guy's leg. He manages to push the creature into the lobby and locks it behind a glass door before helping his friend hold the entrance shut. Neither of them know what's going on, but that's when the younger man notices the other golfer has gone quiet and turns around, seeing him become a savage zombie. He heads for the kitchen, searching for a place to hide, and rushes into a closet as the old man searches for his first victim. Meanwhile, this security guard arrives in a neighborhood to answer a noise complaint, and this lady explains she overheard fighting in the house across the street. He goes over to check it out and knocks on the door, but no one answers. The man is about to look through the window when the people inside run to the door, growling at him. It's terrifying, but as he turns around, the security guard sees the old woman across the street suddenly get overtaken by the virus. It's spreading everywhere, and she charges straight for the man, forcing him to run to his car before the old woman can catch up. He tries to call for help, but no one at the police station is answering. It's a clear sign that this situation is already getting out of control, and he leaves a voice message for his daughter, reassuring her that he'll come pick her up as soon as possible. With more of the creatures swarming his vehicle, he drives away and has no idea that these monsters are already attacking his family. Okay, this is escalating fast. In only a couple hours, the virus has spread into nearly every home all the way from the fertilizer on a golf course. This is like if Plants vs. Zombies decided to join teams and kill the entire human race, which is terrifying. The good news for the rest of the world is that this is happening on an island, and that means it's easier to contain because all they would need to do is have the military barricade the only bridge connected to the mainland. Now, this security guard tried using his radio to call the police station for backup, but he shouldn't have given up so quickly. The Canadian Coast Guard has a 24-hour emergency frequency that monitors calls, and if he had switched to this frequency first, it would have been easier to call for help. The bad news is that as soon as word gets out that there's a zombie outbreak, it's very likely that you'll be forbidden from leaving, and it will only put your life at more risk. It might seem selfish, but the best thing to do in this situation is to tell no one and get you and your family off the island before we're all placed into lockdown. The problem with this strategy is that this guy's daughter is stuck at the golf resort across town. The man has no choice but to stay on the island to save her, and that means he's going to need to prepare himself for the worst case scenario. Now, what you don't know yet is that this security guard is a doomsday survivalist. He literally steals toilet paper from work to build a stockpile in his basement, and that's exactly the kind of person we need in a zombie apocalypse. It just so happens that he also has a bunch of survival gear in his station wagon, and this was the first stop he made after finding out about the outbreak. If you look here, you can see that the man has got gasoline, gas masks, a rope, a hammer, bulletproof vests, and possibly even a rifle in this case. All of these items are going to be extremely useful in life or death situations, but despite all of these advantages, the man made one huge mistake. He switched out his car and drove off in the station wagon when he should have stuck with the Tesla. Now, it might sound counterintuitive because a Tesla is eventually going to run out of battery, and that could put your life at risk. Normally, I would say to stick with the station wagon, but the one exception here is that our goal is to find his daughter and leave the island as quickly as possible. A Tesla has a range of over 270 miles on full charge, and if you look at the size of this island, it's clearly small enough that range is not going to be a problem. The most important benefit, however, is that electric cars are quiet, and in a zombie apocalypse, we want to make as little noise as possible. This station wagon looks like it might be 20 years old and is practically falling apart. It wouldn't be surprising if it's the noisiest car in the town, and all the clunking and rattling will draw all the zombies towards you wherever you go. If this man was thinking straight, he would have chosen the quietest car for stealth and moved all of his survival equipment into the Tesla with enough battery to find his daughter and leave the island before anything bad happened. Meanwhile, across town, Andre here is told to get some water for his baby sister, but before he can take it from the kitchen faucet, his mom reminds him to use bottled water in the fridge. Annoyed, the kid insists she needs to relax instead of constantly working out, but the woman ignores him. She thinks her healthy habits will save her life and walks away to put the baby to bed, but then she stumbles. It's the first sign of infection, and soon her children will have to put her down just to survive. That night, the kid walks into the kitchen to grab himself a drink, but notices his mother is acting strange. That's when she stands up, charging straight at her son, and there's nothing he can say to calm her down. Terrified, he runs outside trying to escape from her, when a car suddenly crashes into the woman and sends her flying across the road. The security guard has saved his life and steps out of the vehicle, warning the kid to stay away from his mom. The safest place he can be is indoors, and the man quickly gets back into his truck, leaving the boy behind as he drags his mom to the house. Andre manages to pull her into the garage and makes sure all the entryways are closed shut. Thinking quickly, he tries calling the cops for help, but finds out the police lines are overwhelmed and the whole island is already under lockdown. To make matters worse, the infected humans have started gathering outside and are trying to break into his house. It's a nightmare, but that's when he notices his mom is crawling towards his baby sister and pulls her away, dragging the zombie into a bathroom. Rushing back out, he closes the door behind him to make sure she can't kill anyone. By now, the kid has figured out the zombies are attracted to his sister's crying, and he starts putting objects over the crib to block out the noise. The creatures outside calm down, but it's only a matter of time before there are too many to hold off. Later, Andre checks his defenses when the family cat comes running through the doggy door. It takes him by surprise, but he's distracted by a zombie that has suddenly grabbed onto his foot. The kid manages to break out of its grip and runs away, with no idea that outside, things are getting much worse. A jet flies overhead, blowing up the bridge connecting to the mainland, and now, everyone on the island is trapped here without power, leaving the survivors stranded in the dark. Okay, this just keeps getting worse. The government has permanently destroyed our last hope of escape, and now there's no fast way off of this island. This completely changes our strategy because now we're stuck here, so the most important thing you can do is find a safe location and fortify it as well as you can. Luckily, this kid lives in a huge house, and even though there are lots of windows he'll have to board up, it's a major strategic advantage. Before we get overwhelmed by zombies, I would be doing everything I can to barricade all entrances and exits using furniture and sturdy items from the inside. Now, none of this matters if you've already dragged a zombie into your house, and that's why saving his mother was the dumbest decision he could possibly make. It would be fair to point out that he might not understand she's a zombie yet, but he's just watched her get hit by a car and break her legs, only to continue trying to eat him. This is not normal behavior by any stretch of the imagination, and if you look here at his room, he's also clearly a gamer. There's no way someone with a VR headset and a gaming chair like this wouldn't know a zombie when he sees one, and it makes this decision even more stupid than it appears. If it were me, I would have blown my mother a kiss and left her right in the street before running back home and locking the door. Let's face it, if the woman isn't even using words and can't walk anymore, then she's obviously a zombie and there's no reason to keep her around. Having said that, it doesn't mean that the woman is completely useless. In a survival scenario, you have to look at everything like it's a potential resource. And right now, one of the most important things to consider here is how this woman might have turned into a zombie in the first place. The reason this matters is because if it was something that she ate or drank, we want to make sure we avoid any of those risks. If we look at their fridge, we can see that she ate kale almost exclusively. The woman was a complete health nut and made a smoothie every morning with tap water before heading to work. Now, we can't assume all of these zombies had a kale obsession like she did, but we can assume that a lot of them have consumed tap water, and this gives us a pretty good idea of what to stay away from. If a virus has managed to spread this quickly, then it would have to be transmitted through the water lines, and it looks here like they have enough packaged liquids and basic food ingredients to last him and the baby about 2 weeks. Once it's gone, he'll have no choice but to venture out to get more food, but the items in this fridge give us enough time to observe the zombies' movements outside and come up with a safe plan to restock supplies. The next morning, the kid watches a video by the Minister of Public Security, reassuring citizens that Peacock Island is under lockdown and that the government has everything under control, but the power is still out and the zombies are growing in number. He goes to the bathroom to check on his mother and discovers her sitting in the shower drinking from the shower head. She doesn't seem to want anything else besides water, and the kid is about to leave when he realizes that his baby sister has crawled into the room inches away from the zombie. Calling out to the woman, he lures his mom out of the bathroom and away from his little sister, but that was her biggest mistake. As she crawls towards him through the living room, the woman knocks one of the legs of the TV stand loose, and the screen comes crashing down on her head. His mom is officially dead, but soon he'll run out of food, and the only way he can survive is by escaping the island. Setting up a ladder, he takes a look outside his house to find 3 zombies standing in front of the entrance, and that's when he comes up with a clever plan. He uses his cat as bait and opens the door, luring the creatures inside. They begin to chase after his pet while he runs out into the neighborhood with his baby sister, but the zombies are already coming after him. Desperate, he runs to the nearest supermarket for safety, but the front doors have been locked shut. With no other choice, he tries to go for the back door, but it won't open. The zombies are surrounding them, and it's clear they're going to die here, when suddenly he's pulled inside and saved at the last second by the security guard. Moving deeper into the building, the kid asks the man what they should do to escape, but the guy explains that it's impossible. All the boats have been put into storage, and they'd freeze to death trying to swim to the mainland. It's a bad situation, and with nothing else to do, the kid goes off to search for something to feed his little sister. He checks the shelves for baby food and finds the girl standing at the greenhouse section of the supermarket. He's about to pick her up when a zombie suddenly runs at the door and stares at them. Somehow it got inside, but that's when the security guard arrives, explaining that this is his daughter and she's recently been infected. He brought her here thinking that they might find a cure, but they both know she's the most dangerous person in this building. Okay, these people are not thinking straight. For someone who's been planning for an apocalypse his entire adult life, keeping his daughter as a zombie prisoner to wait for a cure is the worst idea in the world. Accidents are bound to happen, and if she gets out, it will risk everyone's lives. This is one of the biggest mistakes we can make in a zombie apocalypse, because when family members get infected, it's really hard to let go of the ones we love. That's why if I were this guy and there was good reason to think that a cure was possible, the better decision would be to lock the girl in a garage or tool shed where she isn't a danger to anyone and won't wander off. As long as it's not in the same building you're taking shelter in, it might be worth taking the risk. Now, as counterintuitive as it might seem, there is actually a benefit to keeping zombies around at a safe distance, and that's because in order to defeat your enemy, you need to study their behavior. We already know these aren't normal zombies, and the first sign of this is that all of their blood is green. It's extremely important we figure out what other differences they might have, because if we know their strengths and weaknesses, it's going to be a lot easier to defeat them. The first observation is that they seem to be drawn to sunlight, and this is definitely something we could use against them. This makes for an excellent booby trap, because if we set up mirrors that reflect the sunlight, they might be drawn to it, and it gives us ways to herd a group of zombies in another direction. The second observation is that they seem to be desperately thirsty for water. Earlier when he locked his mother in the bathroom, he came back to find the woman drinking from the shower head, and this is a really important detail. If these zombies seek out water, then a great way we could distract them is to loosen a nearby fire hydrant. Not only would it make a lot of noise, but they might be drawn to the water, and we'd be able to escape without being seen or heard. Now as for this kid, using his cat as bait was a brilliant idea, but the problem was that he left the house without a plan or any equipment for survival. First of all, by letting the zombies in, he's just sacrificed safe shelter, and if it were me, I would have wanted to keep this clear as a backup contingency if we ever need to return. I also would have packed a bag with a flashlight and a pacifier to keep the baby quiet, as well as wear thicker clothing like a leather jacket and gloves to protect us from being bitten. The next mistake he made was not scouting the street before running out. If the kid had done this, he would have noticed that there were at least 3 empty cars, which most likely still have keys in the ignition. If you have a baby strapped to your chest, driving to the supermarket would have been a much better idea than running around looking for safety. Even though he's a young kid, his driving skills aren't going to matter as much because there's no traffic and it's clearly the better strategy. We would also be able to use the horn to lure any zombies away from the supermarket so that we can circle back and find a safer way into the building. Later, the survivors listen to a radio host from the mainland as he talks about the situation. The only thing the public knows is that people on the island have been infected with a strange virus, but they don't know how it has spread. The island has also been completely cut off from the rest of the province to protect the country, and the security guard realizes this guy might be their only hope. Walking away, he calls and tells the host that he's still on the island with a handful of survivors, including his infected daughter. They desperately need to be rescued and ask the man for help, but the only thing the radio host is interested in is learning more about the virus. Frustrated, the security guard hangs up and sits down by the fire with the kid. He's planning on hiding out in the woods with his daughter and welcomes Andre to join them, but the boy refuses. He's determined to discover what's causing the infection in the first place, and if they can figure out how it works, then there's a chance they can tell the world how to stop the virus. That's when the man realizes that the infection might be spreading through the island's water supply. It would be the most effective way to infect everyone this quickly, and there might be enough evidence at the water treatment plant to prove his theory. The next morning at the supermarket, the survivors leave the building as quietly as they can, making sure not to alert the zombies outside. The security guard has designed a cage to put over his daughter's head to protect them, and the survivors get into his car before driving away. Meanwhile, across town, these two women sneak onto the island with a secret mission, but their plan is going to fall apart. They arrive at the island's country club where the golfer from earlier has been burning evidence that could link the fertilizer to the zombie outbreak. The company he works for made the fertilizer that was used on the golf course's grass, and these women have brought something special to deal with the situation. Opening this case, the man picks up one of these balls and explains that they contain the cure that will destroy the infection, but one of the agents grabs him from behind, making sure he can't move. The other agent pulls out a vial with these fertilizer chemicals and pours it down his throat, forcing him to swallow. They've come to this island to cover up the crime, and they won't let anyone get in their way. Okay, these people are not thinking straight. Covering this up might seem smart, but sometimes if life gives you lemons, you should make lemonade even if that lemonade causes a zombie outbreak. We have no idea what company created this fertilizer, but if they're already evil enough to produce something this harmful without testing it, then they might as well profit from the situation as much as possible. The smarter thing to do here would be to infect the rest of the world, and then when things get dire, they can sell the cure to governments for an insane profit. It should go without saying that this is extremely harmful, and I wouldn't recommend it, but you have to admit that covering up this zombie outbreak is missing out on a huge opportunity and might deserve a little more thought. Now, as for these guys, they completely have the wrong priorities. The security guard wants to go to the water treatment plant to get evidence of the infection, but this just makes him a walking target. If he ever makes it back to the mainland and becomes a whistleblower, the man will spend the rest of his life in hiding, worried about being hunted down everywhere he goes. If I'm being honest, I wouldn't give a shit where this virus came from, because I'm only interested in surviving and getting off this island, and that's how the man should be thinking from this point forward. He had the right idea to call the radio station because it would help get his story out and might increase his chances of getting help, but the guard made a huge mistake. He told the host that he was keeping his infected daughter with him, and this one sentence immediately undermined everything he was trying to do. No one would risk their lives to help you if you're being selfish enough to keep your zombified daughter around, because it's placing everyone in unnecessary danger. It would have been a lot smarter if he had kept this information to himself and told them that he was a security guard who has been protecting the citizens of the island. This is a story that people would be more empathetic towards, instead of just asking about the virus. That way, we would be able to speak with more authority and reassure everyone that the infection is subsiding and the zombies are being contained. Across town, the survivors arrive at the water treatment plant and head into the building, leaving the baby inside the car for safety. They walk through this massive hallway when the security guard's daughter suddenly runs off, leading them deeper into the complex. The humans are forced to chase after her and can't stop the girl from jumping into this pool of water. Deciding to rescue her, the guard wades into the depths and searches for the girl, just as another zombie pops out. He manages to pick up his daughter and pulls her to the surface as the infected man rushes at them, but suddenly stops in his tracks. The survivors are shocked, but the kid realizes that the creatures won't attack each other and tells the man that his daughter is keeping him safe. But this was a huge mistake. He's just alerted the zombie, and it starts moving through the water, determined to bite his flesh. The boy quickly runs for his life as the monster chases after him and leaves the building, where he manages to get back inside the car. But now he's trapped here, surrounded by zombies. That's when the security guard comes out of the treatment plant, dragging his daughter with him, and cleverly uses her as a shield to protect himself from the creatures. he gets into the vehicle with his zombie child and rests her torn arm on the dashboard. Taking the opportunity, the kid searches her pockets for a phone, but discovers it's locked with a password. Thinking quickly, he takes the arm and uses her finger to unlock it before recording a video of the zombies standing outside. They can use this as evidence and show the world what's going on when he notices something strange about the broken limb. It looks like grass is growing out of the open wounds, and the security guard suddenly realizes this isn't an accident. This whole outbreak must have been started by the company who created the fertilizer, and now they finally have the proof they're looking for. The survivors speed over to the golf club and get out of the car, determined to figure out what's actually going on, but that's when they find the front door locked. Leaving the kid alone with his zombified daughter, the security guard walks away to search for another entrance inside and manages to climb up to the second floor. Opening a door from the inside, the survivors gather in the building and look around for more clues to expose the company's crime. The security guard locks his daughter inside a closet and makes sure she can't hurt anyone, while the kid sets up a playpen to keep his baby sister safe. But he has no idea that this is going to end in disaster. Okay, this is a horrible idea. Putting this child in a playpen built out of lobby chairs is not enough to keep any zombies from breaking through it. The only reason he's leaving the baby behind is because he's worried about the kid making a sound and alerting the zombies. The major flaw in his thinking is that the baby is a lot more likely to cry if it's left alone, and that means this kid has just been turned into zombie bait. It's the worst thing he could have done, and it makes no sense they didn't just leave her in the car like before. Even though there's still a risk, at least it's a steel enclosure that the zombie can't break into without a lot of help. Now, having said that, this might actually be something we can take advantage of here. Right now, we know that these zombies won't attack other zombies, and the security guard has already used the strategy to escape the water treatment plant. The problem is that his daughter is a full-grown woman. She's losing body parts, but is still too large to carry around as a literal meat shield to keep us safe from being bitten. It's not going to be effective in all situations, and if we were really thinking about our best chances to survive here, we might want to consider an alternative. That's why if it were me, I would consider looking for a nursery in the area. As horrifying as it sounds, picking up a baby zombie and strapping them to your back would go a long way in keeping us safe. We already had to take care of the live baby, and so far their only solution is to leave her somewhere and hope for the best. If we had a baby zombie strapped to our back and Annie here strapped to our front, then we would still be able to keep the baby safe without ditching her every time things get dangerous. Now, this isn't the only plan that fell apart, because earlier when the man tried lifting his daughter out of the sewage, the girl's arm ripped straight off her body. If that's not a sign that keeping her living is a dead end, then I don't know what is. Grass is actually growing out of her decaying flesh, and the rest of her body will go through the same process, so keeping the girl around is pointless. In fact, they've already established that water was the primary cause of infection, so with that information, the security guard wouldn't have gone into the water at all, because if he had an open wound, the virus would have entered his bloodstream. It would have been a lot smarter to drain the water instead, because they're already in a water treatment plant where there's guaranteed to be a pump in each of the pools. Diving into sewage with two zombies floating around is a recipe for disaster, and since the only reason they're here is to collect evidence that nobody will care about, the whole operation is a lost cause. The survivors begin searching for the fertilizer that started this outbreak, and the kid notices the infected dog lying under a tarp. They lift it up and see that the animal's body is turning into grass. This is what will happen to all of the zombies, including the security guard's daughter, and he's horrified, but they're distracted when the little sister starts crying. The kid is about to walk off and calm the baby down, but first trades the torn arm for the guard's shovel, in case he finds any zombies on the way. Returning to the playpen, the boy is surprised to discover that his baby sister has already escaped and frantically searches for the girl. Meanwhile, the man finds some improvised explosives have been set up throughout the golf club, as well as a time bomb ready to go off. But there's a problem. The guard has been infected after rescuing his daughter from the treatment plant and suddenly collapses to the ground in exhaustion. With all of his strength, he crawls over to the bomb and pulls the wires out of the C4 using the ripped off arm, stopping the countdown with less than 3 seconds to spare. Outside, the twin agents are expecting an explosion when they realize someone has sabotaged their time bomb, and with their cure already planted across the driving range, they head back to hunt down whoever's left inside. Reaching the building, they are surprised to find a baby eating a carrot in the kitchen. One of the agents pours out some of the infectious fertilizer, telling the child to eat it, and without knowing any better, the baby immediately stuffs some into her mouth. mouth. That's when they hear the brother calling out for his sister, and they quickly leave before he can find them. Andre here has no idea she's eaten the fertilizer and takes her out of the room with him. He goes back to put her in the playpen, but the agents corner him on both sides, and it's clear that they're not here to help. One of them puts him in a chokehold while the other agent is about to pour the fertilizer into his mouth, but she stops at the last second. The baby has transformed into a zombie and has bitten off the tip of her finger. Suddenly, the infected security guard comes running straight for them, forcing one of the agents to fight him off, and the kid takes the opportunity to push the woman to the ground. At the same time, he steps on a ball containing the cure, and the gas spreads out, filling the air as it enters into the bloodstream of the baby's sister. With both of the agents incapacitated, the boy runs for his life while the security guard chases after him. He corners them in the kitchen, and there's nowhere for the survivors to go, but for some reason, the zombie stops at the last second. Backing away, he recognizes that there's a zombified baby strapped to Andre's chest, and the kid remembers that the creatures won't attack each other. It's just saved his life, and now he might have a chance to get off this island. Okay, as terrifying as it is to be inside of a country club full of savage zombies, we've managed to unlock the ultimate cheat code to survive. With this baby, Andre here is basically zombie-proof, and they'll leave him alone as long as she's in her harness. He can go virtually anywhere without having to worry about being attacked, and this actually raises an important point about how these creatures behave. Earlier in the treatment plant, this zombie clearly sniffed the air before leaving the man alone. That means they not only recognize their own smell, but that it also makes them docile. With this in mind, it's very likely that these zombies excrete some kind of pheromone from their bodies, and if it's a chemical that is naturally produced by all of them, then we have to use this to our advantage. That's why if it were me, I would try wiping their green blood onto my clothes for extra protection. The survivors should have considered that because now the sister is going to turn into grass just like the dog has, and as far as the kid knows, there's no way to undo her condition. Now the good news is that if all the zombies are eventually going to turn into clumps of grass, then every human still left on this island has a much better chance of surviving. It's only been about 2 days since the outbreak started, and already the tissue of these zombies are decomposing. It might only be a few weeks before the rest of the virus has transformed all of them into plant matter, so if we realize that it's too difficult to escape at the moment, then the smartest decision is to gather as many supplies as we can before locking up somewhere safe. The obvious place to wait it out would be the supermarket, as there should be enough perishable goods to last them a long time, and more than enough to last a week. Walking up to the security guard, he carefully searches the man's pockets and takes his cell phone before making a call, hearing another phone ring in the distance. Thinking quickly, he leaves the kitchen and enters the basement, where he finds the daughter's phone laying on bags of fertilizer. Picking it up, he records a video of himself and gives an eyewitness account about the infection. He uploads it to the internet, hoping someone will see it and rescue him. Looking out a window, the kid sees military helicopters flying overhead and goes outside. The army has finally been dispatched to clear out the infection, and the kid thinks he's about to be saved. But that's when he sees a soldier burn a zombie to death, while another shoots a survivor in cold blood. His sister has miraculously been cured of the infection, but the boy runs away, knowing they'll be murdered if they ask the men for help. Hopeless, Andre walks back through the town until he arrives near a riverbank and sees a boat headed towards the island. Civilian rescue has finally arrived to take them away, and the survivors get on the motorboat, thankful to be alive. It's been a traumatizing experience, but they've learned the valuable lesson that golf is the worst sport in the world. But what do you think? How would you beat brain freeze? Let me know with a comment down below. Thank you so much for watching, leave a like and subscribe, and check out the How to Beat playlist for more videos like this. Until next time, have a damn good day.